Good morning. Let's make a GIF. I've provided a movie file for you. We're just going to be in Photoshop today. Once you have launched Photoshop, excuse me, it's 5:50 a.m. After you've downloaded the file and you've launched, here we go. File. We need to go to Import, and we're going to import video frames to layers. So let's see what happens when we do this. I've got this, it should be in your downloads folder. You're looking for the Animation Jam video. I have a folder on mine called Animation Jam, but on your computer it'll be in your downloads folder. Once you have found the video, you are going to select it. So depending on what period you're in, this will say either 0 through 6. This happens to be period 4's Animation Jam. And then we'll click Open. And it's going to ask us a couple questions. We're going to leave all this checked. So I'll give you a second to look at this, make sure that says the same thing, which it should, and then click OK. And even though this is a video, we're going to kind of deal with it as if it is a photograph. I'm going to change my workspace to go to Essentials. You should have Best Workspace. I would choose that. I don't have it on this computer. Okay, so yeah, to get to where I am, Window, Workspace, and then I chose Essentials. Oof, I can't talk today. Next thing I want to do is make sure we have the timeline window open. So go under Window and choose Timeline. You can see I have, looks like we made 58 frames this class. And there are 58 frames in my timeline. And I have 58 frames in my layers here. So you should be familiar with this by now a little bit because we've been making so many GIFs. But the first thing I want to do is crop this. And you can see I'm already in the crop mode. So I'm going to go ahead, I'll zoom out a little bit so we can see this better. You can see my little crop handles. I want to make this a square, a perfect square. So while I'm in the crop tool, I'm going to come up to where it says ratio and choose 1:1 square, and it will pop a little square for me. Notice I'm kind of off here. I'm gonna, ooh, and what's nice, I'm gonna zoom in. What's nice is that you can see the bottom of this line is straight. I can tell that my paper is not. So while I'm in this crop mode, I might as well rotate it as well. And I'm gonna use this kind of gap as my guideline. And when I bring my cursor away from the crop, I can click and drag it down, that right side down. So now you can see that gap is a little more even, and that looks even as well. I think the triangle was a big shape, so they don't get much bigger than the triangle. So I'm going to do a pretty close crop of this triangle. Something like that's good. And then hit return when you're done. And that crops every layer, every frame at once. Okay. So here's a cool little way to kind of check out each individual frame, each individual drawing. Yeah, so there we go. Next thing we're going to do is add some color. So I have kind of this whitish beige paper with red line drawing on it. Go to the top of your layers, and we're going to start adding a few adjustment layers to change the color. So the first thing we're going to do is make the inverse. So we are going to flip these colors. So let's see what happens when we do that. Invert. Oh, actually, I change my mind. Levels. Can't talk. Let's see here. So I've made a levels adjustment layer, and now I have this properties window with my levels adjustments here. I'm going to move this up. Actually close this tab group here. Okay. So you have 3 different controllers here, 3 sliders in your levels. There's a black point, a middle gray point, and a white point. So I want to make the whites brighter. That means I need to slide my white adjustment slider to the left. You can see everything gets brighter. Now you have this little graph here. You don't want to take the white and go way over the left of it because everything will start disappearing. So roughly kind of like this. And then we need to take my black slider and drag this in. And when I do that, you'll notice that the whites kind of come back. So this is making the red darker, but it's also making my whites darker. So first adjust the white point. then adjust the black point, and then we'll go to this middle slider and go to the left, like so. So my values are 57, 1.89, and 213, if you want to go exactly where I am, especially if you're in period 4. But you don't have to do this, and we're going to actually go back and change this a little bit. Once we've kind of adjusted the contrast of this picture of the video, now we're going to inverse it. So I'm going to make a new adjustment layer, this little button here, and we're going to choose invert. Boom, now we've got green on black. So it has flipped the colors to show their complementary color. And now if you want to, so I have my controls for invert and for levels. I can click on the levels layer, and now we're working in an opposite manner. So if I want to adjust the black, I need to grab my white slider. I'll go to the left a little more. So that makes it like really black. That's good. That looks really good. Okay, awesome. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to click back on my invert layer, because you want, every time you make a new layer, you want it to go above the layer before it, and to make sure that you do that in the correct order, you have to click on the top layer. And that was true for the very beginning we did levels. You have to be on the very, very top layer to make that adjustment layer. Pretty sure I said that, but another reminder. Now we're going to go into selective color. So we're going to do one more adjustment layer. Choose selective color, the very bottom. And I am going to grab my blacks here. So you have like different colors, red, yellow, green, blah, 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 blah. We're going to look at the blacks. So it's only going to affect the black colors, the black in this. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to change the cyan. We'll go to the left. There you go. You get a nice red. Let's see the magenta. So I invite you to play around with this, experiment, see what kind of colors you can make. Once you've gotten that kind of dialed in with the blacks, I think if you go to cyans, yeah, cyan will let you adjust the color of the line. Probably a little more subtly. And I think when you're doing the cyans, maybe you have to do absolute. So if you check absolute, that might make a difference. But yeah, I actually kind of like the blue because it's a sea king color, right? So I think in the end here, I'm going to go back to blacks. We'll see if I can get kind of like a navy blue out of this. There we go. Let's maybe adjust the cyan a little bit. So that looks very Sea King-esque to me. Mr. Triton would be proud. Let me hit play. Very cool. Yeah, so I feel like just changing the color kind of elevates it from a mere line animation to something more interesting. And that's it. So I'm going to stop this. And we're going to save this just like any other GIF. So how do we do that? File, export, save for web. And you can see mine's smaller, 480 by 480. That's fine. We're just going to keep that the same. Make sure looping says forever. Click save. And we will call this, what's this called? Oh yeah, Colorized Animation Jam. Awesome. Click save. Now I want to go back to that picture here, Colorize Animation Jam. Oh, sorry about that. The construction noise got kind of crazy. So if I double click on this file here, it's going to just open up in preview. And it doesn't really do much. It doesn't animate. My frames are there. I'm going to close this. If you want to test your GIF, you always have to drag it into the browser. So really these GIFs are made to be played in a browser, like Chrome, my favorite browser here. So I'm going to click and drag this down to my dock on top of my browser. And then there you go. You have this awesome animation that you drew one frame of. You, the in-betweener. Okay, fun. So that's it. You are going to submit this with the moon GIF as well on a web page. And I hope you enjoyed this. That was kind of fun. The end.